All right, it is 105. I'd say let's go ahead and jump in. And as if people trickle in and out, that's fine.
Okay.
Um, but why don't you introduce yourself and just kind of describe where you're coming
Okay.
from?
Well, my name's Conrad Levallee. I'm from Gatineau, Canada. Gatineau is part of the National Capital Area, so I'm living at about 15 minutes from the Canadian Parliament, driving distance. Just to give you a little idea of the location. Um, I've been working as a computer trainer within the Canadian Federal Public Service during the past 32 years. Been in charge of a number of curriculums, apart from the technology related curriculums like public policy developments and stuff like that, project management and information management and communication curriculum. And so I've been heavily involved over there, but the bulk of my work was dealing with technology.
Mhm.
Did some participated to some research and development projects and but in the federal public service and before working within the federal public service, I used to work as a trainer as well in the private sector. In the early times before the advent of the internet. So I experienced the internet transition. I've been the one training hundreds and hundreds of people on the early stages of the internet within the federal public service. Um, but I noticed that in companies and in the government, in most big, large bureaucracies, I noticed that people are using computer technology mostly to make reports. So everything is
Mhm.
centered on the generation of reports so that it climbs the upward ladder, so to speak. But there's very little that's done, so to speak, to support the thinking process. And that's where my interest lies. Uh,
Mhm.
from an academic background, I'm an andragogue, so, which is an adult. I'm specialized in adult education.
Mhm.
So that's where I have my degrees and my experience. Um, and I developed a computer paradigm that has very little to do with the standard paradigm. My
Mhm.
paradigm is the management of ideas. So all the
Yeah.
idea processors, what do you think about the electronic outliners, mind mapping application, different types of mapping applications, so forth. But it's to manage our thinking processes. I use a computer as an amplifier of our human thinking, essentially, and all the applications that I'm focusing upon are oriented in that direction.
Mhm.
So,
Sounds like very, very non-linear, where the reports that everything centers around are very much just straight over and over and over static documents.
yeah,
Whereas what
yeah.
you're focused on is kind of a very non-linear uh, idea growth
Yeah,
within the machine process.
and the ability to take a linear text and make it non-linear, or to take some
Hmm.
non-linear content and linearize it for communication purposes.
Hmm.
These
Yep.
are the things that I like to focus upon, and that's where Muse came in. I was just saying to Adams before the beginning of this presentation that I'm keeping about a little bit more than 600 applications on my Mac and a similar number of applications on the iPad. I'm not using all of those applications, by the way. I have a three-tier approach.
I would love to see you use every single one in a single workflow. That would be incredible.
It would be overwhelming though. But what I do, I take a look at those applications from time to time, and if they are just new applications, they're not interesting at this point to me, but they have perhaps a developmental potential and keep those applications
Hmm.
in my system. And sometimes I notice that applications are evolving to a point where they become fully operational, I can use them and really use them to my advantage. Then they move to the second tier.
Hmm.
And these are applications I will use and work with more generally. So in the second tier, I have probably something like 70 applications that I would consider serious for the kind of work that I'm interested. And when
Is
an
in
app,
that
yeah,
I'm curious in that tier where they've kind of grown functionally enough to be useful for you, do you find yourself generally using all 70 of those applications, say like within a month or within a year period?
yes, yes,
Hmm.
definitely. And I will play with those applications. There's a few of them though that moves to the first tier, and these are the applications that are to me becoming quote indispensable.
Hmm.
So there's not a large number of those applications. I would say perhaps maximum 20, but I'm
Hmm.
using 4 or 5 of those applications more intensely than the others. And Muse moved through the 3 tiers. It's now in the first tier, and it's one of my 5 most important applications. And on the iPad, it is definitely my most important application. Nothing can replace Muse on the iPad for me, though. On the Mac, I would say Muse together with Curio are the
Hmm.
applications that I'm using a lot. Now, there's a lot of differences between those applications, and perhaps I could share my screen at this point
Yeah, I'd love that. I think that's
and
a great context for us to start with. Um,
show you. Um, okay, let me go there, and I'll show you a bit how I'm using Muse to begin with. So I'll move to Muse. I think I've opened it. No, not yet. So let me go to Muse. So I'm Canadian though, so you'll notice that in Muse I'm using parts of it in French and parts of it in English. Uh, and I've been using it moving back and forth between the languages on quite a regular basis. So let
mhm.
me uh, come here to show you a bit um, manner in which I use Muse. I tend to use the blocks a lot. This is the linear part of the application. Well, linear and semi-linear, because of course I can take those blocks and move them around with extreme
Mhm.
ease. In that respect, there are many applications using blocks today. And for those who are using blocks, let us say in an infinite, unlimited canvas or a board, uh, I don't know of any application that allows us to move blocks as easily and with as much fluidity as Muse. So far, Muse is my preferred application for that purpose. So, and when I've moved those blocks, reorganized them in the proper sequence, then I use electronic ink together with notes. So this is a thinking tool. So I will think about a certain issue and put that in block forms. And then with those blocks, I will put additional reflective comments. And that's about an application of my thinking about an application which is known as the brain. These are some of the synergizers, some of the applications that I would say that are part of my first tier. Um,
I'm
and
curious, as you're walking through this board, you have quite a few of the blocks kind of in that larger structure.
yeah,
Um, do you find yourself uh, pouring that large content in and just starting from there as a initial canvas and then doing a second pass through that content, or does it kind of all
yeah.
happen at the same time for you, where you're importing content and immediately tuning
Well,
it
well,
down into smaller?
sometimes I do import content, and quite often I'm going to write the content directly into Muse. We'll start by
Mm-hmm.
writing a number of blocks, and then I'll use electronic ink together. So these are smaller blocks that I've restructured. And as you can see, this is more linear. That's
Mm-hmm.
not the most recent, but at a certain point, okay, I recreated the Urantia book in the brain, an application that, and the brain is give me an idea of how to build an electronic book using a totally different type of technology. So that's to me, that's a new paradigm, and I'm working on it. So you have the thinking revolving.
Mm-hmm.
So when I reflect on those blocks, new ideas pops in. I call those incident concepts. So I will simply use the electronic ink together with the notes to highlight those ideas. A creative idea has a certain property. It will pop up in your mind, but if you don't capture that creative idea, you'll forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
So Muse is a fantastic tool just to capture the ideas as they come to mind. And not only do you capture the idea, but you capture the flow, the
Mm-hmm.
sequence in which those ideas are evolving, and the context into which they appeared and are evolving. So to me, this
That's what
is, yeah,
I was going to say. That's what I noticed most about the notes in our earlier discussion, and what you're showing right now is that you can very clearly see your thought process and what connects, which
yeah.
I think, and I'm curious how you go back to these notes. Do you end up reading and refollowing that flow and then finding new things and making further branches off?
Yes.
How does this map of ideas um, both get created, which you've discussed, but also how do you use that map of ideas when you come back to it a second time to review your notes? What is that process like for you?
Well, it triggers the generation of new ideas. For instance, this is I started with this, and gradually it evolved into some further thinking. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
this is from from this particular set of thoughts, I generated those, which led to those thoughts, and gradually I came with a condensation of each of those ideas, just to clarify these things in my mind. And as I move, it further develops, as you can see. Um, and at certain points, I will use in other applications to create some text. Um, for instance, I will use Ulysses or Craft or Curio
Mm-hmm.
to write the document, but essentially, I can take the set of blocks and transfer those blocks into Craft, for instance, or
Mm-hmm.
into a logsec or into Ulysses and continue on writing those. And
Mm-hmm.
it works perfectly. The compatibility between Muse and all those applications that are blocked based is fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. I can take blocks from Notion, for instance, or Craft, and copy them directly in Muse, and then start working with those blocks using the electronic ink and using these processes, or I can do it the other way around. I can
Mm-hmm.
develop those blocks in Muse and further process them outside of Muse. Now, I'll show
Yeah.
you a
So
bit. Yes.
real quick, what I was so condensing down what I think I've heard is a lot of your process comes down to maybe three stages, where the first stage is opening up a new Muse board and it's just kind of putting everything in your mind, a quick dump of all the information onto the page, putting out
Hmm.
some linear blocks, maybe starting to connect, but it's really about how do I get this information into Muse in a place that I can work with?
Yeah.
And then the second stage is, okay, now let me think about it and let me think through it kind of very visually, non-linearly, just following the train of thoughts, lots of ink, lots of connections, lots of new threads. And then the third stage, kind of after you've processed everything and after you've really thought through the entirety of the problem,
Hmm.
then it can become okay, now it's time to put this in a bit more of a document form, maybe something I could share with somebody,
Yeah.
copying it out of Muse and starting to put in a more traditional document in somewhere like Craft.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
is that a good summary of kind of where you're, broadly speaking, where your process is with Muse?
Yeah, that's part of it. When I'm working strictly from Muse, for instance,
Right, right.
a good example of that would be this little mind map here. I started with an idea, and then it went through others. The nice thing about the notes that you can highlight things with color, and you can use electronic ink with color. So you see here, this is in French though, but you can see a conceptual development and it goes into all sorts of ramifications. The reason why I'm combining uh, notes with mind maps created with the pencil, with electronic inks, is that you enter into a different kind of conceptual and creative flow when you're using electronic ink, and especially when you use it to mind map ideas. So Muse is the only application I know of where you can almost uh, seamlessly combine blocks, notes, and electronic inks in a very creative fashion. So it has to highlight the development of your thinking flow, and you can recapture those things and put them in another application for further usage. But this is extremely powerful as a tool. But there's another aspect of using Muse that I would like to sh share with you, though, and this is when you're sharing documents.
Mhm.
So here, what I'm doing, I have okay, I have some linear text, and I'm I'm coming here with some video links and some documents that I've captured in Muse. Not in Muse. I captured those documents from Wikipedia, and I
Mhm.
convert a Wikipedia page into a PDF document. The nice thing about it, though, is that PDF document is fully all the links in that document are fully functional. So this is another way to highlight your thinking or develop further thinking. But you'll notice that at some point, for instance, the guy that you see here on top wrote a book. Uh, which is Jan Christian Smuth in 1947. He wrote a book on holism and evolution. Now, this book, if you try to buy it, you won't find it anywhere. But there's a reference to that book in the bibliographical parts of this, and I can click here, and it opens a link. And this is, that's not exactly the one that I wanted to click on. So let me come back to Muse. Yeah, this is the link. Okay. I'll just uh, put this in dark, which is easier for me to. And you'll notice that there's a Google link
Mm.
here pointing to that book. So if I click on that link, okay, I'm in the book. And this is extremely powerful. So if the resource is not available directly, you can see that it's kind of a network of resources that I can tap from those PDF rendition of a Wikipedia page. How do I do that in Wikipedia? it's fairly straightforward, but I'm normally using an application which is known as Knowledge. Um,
Yeah,
well,
knowledge builder or knowledge base, I
Builder.
think.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I was very
Knowledge
curious
Builder.
for you to show how you use those two things together with
Yeah,
Muse and with Knowledge Builder, and what lands in each one of those applications.
suppose that I want to develop something on the theme of mind. Okay. So in Knowledge Builder, what it is essentially, it takes pages from Wikipedia and convert those into maps. So every time that I move my pointer to one of those, it gives me a little note. So Mind Manager is a well-known application, mind mapping
Hmm.
application. I can select from there, I can jump to a whole bunch of resources. I can go to Google Web Search, Wikipedia search, Google Book, and so forth. So I would like to focus on the concept of mind. So let me go to the edit mode. And since mind is the thought that is centered, if I double click this, it will reorganize around the idea that I want to focus upon. So I will take the concept of mind and I can take a look at a note on that concept, which doesn't seem to have a lot of content, but let us go back to mind here. Okay, I'm in Wikipedia. I'll use large since I'm online here, and I'll use a dark interface. So I can simply read this, and it's good to read it straight from Wikipedia because you have all those links leading
Hmm.
to a wealth of resources. And of course, I spent a lot of time serendipitously reading those documents, and that's a fairly large one, but I want to keep that and I want to reuse it within Muse.
Hmm.
So if I want to do that, I will simply go into Tools, and in Tools, I will download as PDF. Okay, let me just put, uh, I'll use a pointer here that should help us. Okay, so I'll download as PDF. Download will take a few seconds, and there it is. It's within my downloaded document. So if I go into the Finder and go to download, mine PDF, okay, um, can open up this. And of course, I can, at this point, share it with Muse. And there it is. It's within Muse. Um,
Nice. And
and
when it comes
yeah.
into Muse, I'm curious, and I think you're probably about to get there.
Hmm.
Obviously, you mark up the PDF quite a bit with ink as you read the PDF in Muse.
Yeah.
Do you do you take screenshots or you take excerpts of the PDF as well and start
Yeah.
moving them around in a board?
Yes.
Yeah.
For instance, these are examples of those. These are, if I simply click here and we'll get into the document so I can see it in context, but I can
Hmm.
create an excerpt, and I did a few of those here and there. So yeah, I do that quite a bit though.
Yeah.
For
When we
instance,
got
as
into
an
this
excerpt.
in our discussion earlier, I think this was a big moment for me because I saw there's a lot of thoughts that you put down in either linear block form or in ink.
Hmm.
You're
Hmm.
following all of those threads and creating your own mind maps, and you're tying those mind maps back into quotes and excerpts from PDF. And so you have your that you can jump straight back to the source material, start reading the
Yeah,
PDF again. You can go
yeah,
back into excerpt mode, start following your train of thought, and it lets you um, throughout an entire kind of journey as you're studying consciousness or as you're looking at a various topic, you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
jump from the thread of a particular thought all the way back to the context, start reading the context and start a whole new thread
yeah,
off from there.
absolutely. And this is fantastic when you think about it, though. So I'll take this document that I just picked up from Wikipedia. So you can see that it started with knowledge base, and now it's within Muse. And then reading it and working from that document is very straightforward. So of course I can use as an advantage all the I can use electronic ink within that document, but all of the links are still working in Muse. So let me go to altered state of consciousness, for instance. Okay, that's a reference. So if I go there, I'm into that reference directly, which is 30. Bernstein Nash, and there's in Google Book I can read parts of his book. So this is quite amazing when you think of it. Um, and let's say I want to see some information about Daoism, it brings me back straight to Wikipedia, where I can again convert this additional document into a PDF and insert it if needed into Muse. And it's an iterative process. It's like a hermeneutic circle in phenomenology. Uh, you go from the part to the whole and the whole to the part. Those documents allow me to examine the part in more details, but I can see when I move through those pages, I can relate the part to the whole, or I can extract some parts of those documents, bring them back into Muse, and then use some do my reflections using blocks. So I can highlight um, my thinking here
Mm-hmm.
on the subject. And of course, there's a line of thought that develops
Yeah.
from here. So um, and and reuse those blocks creatively.
Yeah. And then you continue with the ink and kind of building out the map from there, maybe jumping into more excerpts.
Yeah. So right now
Yeah.
I'm using the Mac, but if I go to sharing, I can switch to Windows. Wait a second.
I'd I'd also be curious to hear how you're on your Mac now,
Yeah.
um, how you use Muse alongside with your iPad. Do you find yourself using those together, where you might be
Uh,
browsing Wikipedia,
some
importing on your Mac?
sometimes I'm using them together. The advantage of working with the Mac is that there are certain applications that are fully available on the Mac and they're partially available on the iPad. A good example of that would be using the brain. Uh,
Hmm.
Here I have a fairly extensive let me say that I go here, uh, I'll go philosophical characteristic of phenomenology. So this is something that is generated with AI, and it's a fairly extensive, um, as you can see, there's a lot of lessons. Now, these lessons are this part is not developed here, but you see that there's a lot of notes, and each note is standing on its own. It's a lesson, so to speak. So if I
Hmm.
take a look at play of signifiers, I can simply open up the board here, and you can see the AI generated parts. But I selected, for the sake of this presentation, a part of this giant mind map. There's 7,000 documents in this map, by the way, that have been
Oh
generated
my
with
goodness.
AI. Each of those documents has 1,000 words, and they're all structured. Okay. So what I did, I collected those documents, those individual notes, and
Hmm.
I can simply create a document from those notes. Now, the document can be PDF, HTML, or Markdown. Okay. And I used a certain number of parameters, but that's what the document looks like as a PDF. So from a
And
nonlinear
it,
application, I create a linear document, a PDF document. Yes, Adam,
yeah, when you have this PDF from the brain and you've explored this mind map and you want to go further, is this the PDF that you then import into Muse and then continue on?
that's what I will
Where,
do.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll do that in a few
and
moments.
and so then
Yeah,
you're jumping back and forth between those applications. Yeah.
yeah. And I was just telling you that I have a different paradigm, computing paradigm. Uh, I call my paradigm the space of cognitive synergy. And one of the key feature of the manner in which I use computer technology is that I use different applications, but a basic criteria is that I must be able to use the output of an application as an input within another application. So I must develop the ability to convert those structured components.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to have your thought process kind of stuck in a dead end where
Wait,
you,
just a second. I have a phone call, but that may be
oh, okay.
important. Just it won't be very long. Um,
No, that's fine.
okay, it's done. They hang up. Probably wasn't important. So what I did here, I created those documents, and let me go to the stuff here. I have this document dies in PDF.
Hmm.
So if I look at it as a PDF document, that's what it is. I'll say view continuous. Okay. So that's what it will look like for all intended purposes within Muse. Okay. Um, so
Hey,
right
thanks,
now,
Michael.
oh, I'll send it to Muse from here. Okay. That's not the right right button. That's the one. Okay, so sending the document to Muse. Okay, and it will appear at this juncture. And now this is something that I could highlight perhaps in a different board, but I'll do it from here. So here we go. All the ideas, the thoughts generated with AI are captured in this particular venue. But I also did something else with this document. I converted the document and in a more, let us say, creative fashion into Curio. So that's what I have here in Curio. And why do I jump from Curio to from the brain to Curio? Just to show you that when we're processing ideas, okay, let me enlarge this a little bit. You can see that I converted that into a an outline, an electronic outline.
Hmm.
The idea here is that I can take this particular text or node and let me try Control C. No, not I'm not in Windows here. And go back to Muse. And okay, then that way. So I'll come back to Curio and I'll simply pick up the text here as such, copy, and go back to Muse. And here I have a block.
Yeah. So then
Okay.
you've kind of gone full circle from you're able to move items into, say, the brain application or the knowledge base application,
Yeah.
work with it there, move things back, highlight, excerpt, follow trains
Yeah.
of thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm really
I can
curious.
pick up some interesting and important concept directly from Curio here as
Yeah.
individual block and then reprocess those straight from Muse. And
Yeah.
the fact that those blocks are that I can connect those blocks together and
Hmm.
reorganize them and resize them. All of this is extremely useful. So here I would use the electronic ink, perhaps, and I would read those. And if I have some interesting ideas popping in my mind about those, I will put a note.
Hmm.
Let me go to another file to do. And
Yeah. And
and
start building out your trail.
yeah, yeah, and if
Yeah.
I switch to the iPad, so I use the Mac because Curio is not available, for instance, on the iPad.
Hmm.
So there are applications that are sophisticated. We know that iOS is the limitation of the iPad. Even if I
Hmm.
have an M4 iPad Pro, it's limited by the operating system. But
Right.
macOS doesn't have those limitations. And the fact
Yeah.
that I can use Muse from the Mac, I can take advantage of what's available on the Mac. And then, and I will simply share my Mac here, so it won't be very long. Let
I'm
me,
also curious to open it up for questions soon as well. So, Ramit or Yash, as you're thinking, after he shows us his iPad screen, we can kind of open it up for a broader discussion too.
iPhone and iPad via AirPlay would do share. Okay, so I'm picking up the iPad. And it's asking me to, okay, go to screen sharing and Zoom MacBook Pro. So there we go.
I've never actually shared my iPad screen this way. I've always
There we go.
connected it directly to the Mac and shared, I think, through QuickTime. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to see this flow. Computers can do all kinds of things I never knew.
Yeah, it's so again, I can open up Muse and it takes a little while. It won't be very long though. There, I was in that document before, so I think I added something along those lines here. If I'm not, let me see, maybe a level higher. Yeah, it was at the previous board. Yeah. I was somewhere around here when I did that though. But still, I would continue on developing those ideas
Hmm.
straight from, I think that's where I was.
While he's finding that PDF, Yash or
Yeah.
Ramith, I'm curious if y'all have any thoughts or questions or maybe comparisons about how both of you work and some things you might have gleaned or things you'd like to share as well.
So as you can see, the using the pen at this point, it becomes a fairly straightforward process. Just bring the pen, not the presenter pen, but the pen. Okay. And that's where things are
Hmm.
getting witnessing emergence from formidable integration among the creative process. Okay, so of course here I want a larger. So there's a software integration. Okay. So I'm holding the iPad in my hand. So uh, as you can see,
Yeah.
it's not the ideal way to use it, but um, it works. I will develop a mind map at this point using the electronic ink
Yeah.
and with different colors and can do some drawings and use some notes at some points here
Hmm.
to further create links. The
Yeah. And really
concept
start building out
of a
that
mandalic
structure of
book.
your thoughts.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm using the Mac, but normally I use it with together with the portfolio, or I will simply
Hmm.
type in from that keyboard, and
Hmm.
I will further develop these things. And sometimes I will go into um, Knowledge Manager, so I do have it on the Mac as well. So let me,
Okay. So that's one that application is shared and exists
yeah,
on the Mac, but also exists on the iPad.
yeah, yeah. And thinking in pictures, for instance. So I
Yeah.
want to take a look at this document. And again, I can connect. I can do the same thing straight from this perspective download as a PDF. And there we go.
Hmm.
And from there, I can share it directly with the Muse. Um,
Hmm. Yeah. So it's a
okay. It asked me to
very
log
similar
in.
flow.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
think it's.
And uh, what's interesting with the an application like this, not this one, but Knowledge Builder, is that when I'm looking at a thought, I
Hmm.
won't take this one because this is but let us say visual language. I can go to YouTube or Vimeo, and it will show me. Well, we can do that with Google search as well, though. But it gives me a whole set of videos
Yeah.
on the topic, and that's interesting because let us say that I pick up one of those videos. What is a visual communication for printed material? Now these are sponsored sections. Um, Now you have the 12-minute videos, Genman visual language needed, no translation, visual language design. Let us go here. And I can take this video, share it, So I'll
Hmm.
pick up copy the link, and I would come back to close
Yeah.
YouTube, come back here, and simply simply paste that link.
Yeah.
And wait a second.
Nice. I love how that kind of connects your entire flow from the Mac, starting either in Knowledge Builder or Google Books or Wikipedia or some other places, pulling into a PDF, reading, highlighting, excerpting, building out the mind map, but then also moving from those mind maps, copying into Craft or copying into other applications, and really kind of never getting stuck inside of one application, but always being able to move ideas back and forth between places for their different
Yeah,
thing.
and there are many applications that I use together
Yeah.
with Muse. So
Nice.
of
Let's
course,
let's open it
yeah,
up for questions.
yeah.
Ramit, you just raised your hand, and Yash, I know you've had some thoughts as well. Ramit, what's I'm curious what your thoughts are. Take it
Yeah,
away.
I
yeah.
can
My
stop share.
my question
Yeah,
or thought is like regarding the regarding like the depth and the breadth of how we acquire concepts. So one thing I realized is this application is pretty good in terms of the breadth, like connecting all the ideas. But I have realized that sometimes it's a bit hard to like let's say a PDF, uh, linearly going through the PDF without any distraction and like delving like in the uh rather than the breadth, like going through the PDF deeply. I feel like that's
Hmm.
somewhat lacking here. So I recently got like a remarkable, and I realized that
Hmm.
if I so in that there's no distractions on reading a PDF linearly. Um, so so now what I do is I take notes on that and then I export it to here and then make all the connections. So previously, when I was reading a PDF on Muse, I sometimes like take excerpts and it's like sometimes going down rabbit hole. So I'm just wondering if that's like
Hmm.
a perfect how we can improve the PDF readability in Muse and so that people can go in depth on a particular topic as well. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So you're as you pull up a PDF and you're reading through Muse, you find yourself kind of easily, would
distracted
you
in
say like
some way.
easily distracted or kind of easily going through rabbit holes as opposed to the
Yeah,
remarkable tablet, which really forces you to stay in the PDF
yeah. So it
so
like
you can
forces
move
me to
through.
complete. Yeah, it kind of focuses me to complete it and then bring it to Muse and then draw the connections in some way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting because I use the Remarkable tablet as well. I just got the Remarkable Pro recently, and I can write manually, convert that into printed text, and import that within. Um, I can import it afterwards directly within Muse, and it appears as blocks. So the synergy between Remarkable and Muse is outstanding. And one of the things that I noticed about Muse is that there's no distractions when I'm working in Muse. With some applications, you have all those notifications and all this kind of
Hmm.
distracting flow of announcements. And but when I'm working within Muse, I don't see that. So
Hmm.
I have the focus on what's the essential. It's a simple interface. And to me, one of the biggest advantage of Muse is its responsiveness. I mean, it's lightning fast. If I want to go see a document, I don't have to download it. I don't have to do all sorts of, I simply double click and I'm right into it. If I want to see a
Hmm.
video, if I have posted a link pointing to a video, well, I can use that link right away and it's instant.
Hmm.
There's no lag time. And
Hmm.
that's the only application I know of that gives me this capability.
Yeah.
All the other applications, when you're combining different information from different sources and you're combining it with multimedia components, there's always a lag time that can be quite significant sometimes. And not only
Hmm.
that, in Muse, I don't have to go through pull down menus.
Hmm.
If I want to take this block and move it, there it is. And
Yeah.
if I want to
It's
reorganize those two blocks, that's a piece of cake. I
it's
want to
interesting to me
resize.
that you. Oh,
Hmm?
sorry. I was going to say it's interesting to me that you use the Remarkable tablet and take your notes and then import as text blocks. Ramith, it sounded like you were using the Remarkable tablet and then were you re-exporting the whole PDF with ink on the PDF? Or what
Yeah.
was your flow with the Remarkable tablet?
I do it both ways. I can pick up I have the tablet works with the Mac. So if I go
Hmm.
into my Remarkable application on the Mac, I can do that. By the way, wait just a second. I'll go to Remarkable.
That's okay. I was just curious about the flow because I have a few minutes left. I also want to get to Yash's question as well. But Ramith,
Yeah.
were you exporting the whole
Yeah.
PDF or were you exporting your notes as text back to Muse?
Yeah. So on Remarkable, what I did was I directly got the raw PDF, let's say research paper, to Remarkable,
Hmm.
and I think one of the main features which I was better on Remarkable was just the zoom and probably highlighting like straight. You can like straighten lines and stuff. That's
Hmm.
pretty helpful. And once I'm done with the paper, I just export it flattened in a like PDF, and I just import it to Muse. But I have realized sometimes I do need to like re-export it just because I took more notes on the Remarkable. That's the only
Hmm.
like how the flow breaks. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because it's a one-way export and you can't kind of sync that ink back and forth. Right. Yash, I know you've had your hand raised for quite a while. Curious what's your thoughts as well.
Um, so I have a question for Conrad. Uh, so I, so I was just looking at uh, things that you were showing, and it was quite overwhelming to just look at everything because there's a lot. It seems you move around and move between applications, and what I kept wondering is. Uh, this whole workflow, when you go through it, do you have uh, an end shape, let's call it an end shape in mind? Basically, these ideas that you're working with, combining, maybe splitting them into something else, connecting it to something new that you bring in from another application, and then join them together, or maybe discard them and then bring in something new. While you're doing this, do you uh, think about the shape, the end shape in mind, like what shape you would like it to take. And by shape, I mean
Uh,
a media format, like maybe a linear piece of blog post or a text or a book, uh, or do you just let it emerge, kind of an emergent experience? Like, how do you approach it?
I let those things emerge essentially, and uh, they shape up gradually. That's I have an approach which is called progressive formalization. Normally, when we work at university, for instance, you're going to work on something. You start with a plan, an outline, a predefined outline, and you're following a script, so to speak. But this has its strengths, but it also comes with limitation, especially when you're dealing with creative thinking. So here, what I'm doing, it's serendipitic. I will write whatever comes to my mind at the present moment and develop that as a mind map. The format that I use here is a mind map. Why? Because you're using keywords and connecting those, and each keyword represents an idea, and these ideas are connected by links, so you can see the flow in which those ideas are popping up in your mind, and it's a way to capture your thinking in a visual fashion. And sometimes when you do that, as you do it, new ideas are coming up to your mind, so you can capture them at that particular moment. You can see not only the flow of your thinking, but the context into which that thinking is occurring. And then you can put those additional notes, and you can do some research on the web. You can put some videos. So it's serendipity. I never know in advance how it will develop, what the content will be, because when I explore, let us say, a PDF document, or I'm in knowledge base, or I'm using the AI system in the brain. Um, it leads me into direction, but I have three criteria, so that because otherwise you're getting into what we call information overload.
Mhm.
For a third party, this could be information overload, okay? Because this is mind thinking. So to me, it isn't information overload. This is memory, captured memory. But to a
Mhm.
third
Yeah.
person, yeah, that could be a bit disconcerting. But to me, this is a way to not only revise my thinking, review what I've been thinking, or see what I was thinking at the particular moment and how this thinking evolved with new information that I've gathered on that particular issue and how it evolved. So I have all the references, and it's fantastic to move so quickly from one resource to another. And this is an excerpt,
Mhm.
for example, the difference between dialogue and conversation. And I mean, from this, there's a whole things that there's all sort of elements that
Mhm. I'm
I can
curious, you
put it
mentioned
on.
you had three criteria to kind of keep yourself from
Yeah,
information overload.
is it good? And that's depending on my concept of goodness is continually evolving. Is that a good information? Will it be useful to me considering the project that I have in life? And is it true? Is it reliable as a source of information? And is it beautiful? Is it elegant? Is it inspiring? So with those three criterias, I will eh, that will enable me to flag some pieces of information that I will capture from various sources. So I never know what I will find because the internet is huge. Artificial
I,
intelligence is massive.
I'm
I mean,
I'm curious which of those three is the most fine filter for you? Like which one filters things out the most out of those criteria, do you think?
I like to use Wikipedia a lot. And
Hmm.
when I take the bibliographical content of Wikipedia, I like to go into the Internet archives. There's 12 million books in the Internet archives. Many of the books that aren't available on the market, you can, if the copyrights are not valid anymore, you can download a PDF version of those books. I did that quite often with the whole books that I put in Muse.
Hmm.
So I use Muse to read books as well. So I have books of hundreds of pages in some of my boards, and there's I can extract, cut, and paste some parts of those books, and then use those to further develop the thinking. And then you know that we can link boards and notes and blocks in Muse. So sometimes I do link some elements that do fit well together. So it's a creative platform. It's a reflective platform. It's a thinking platform. Now I'm retired. I have the leisure, and I really appreciate that, to explore the world the way I want to explore it, with no limitation. Sky's the limit.
Hmm.
So this is, to me, this is pure bliss.
That's
That's the way to put it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. You're able to go deep on any thought and just kind of follow the threads and have the resources to do it. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. I'm uh, very thankful that you were able to share this today. Before we close out, do we have any other thoughts or questions or insights or reflections?
Some point I
I think
feel like
that
maybe. Oops. Yes, we can go ahead.
no, so I was just going to say that I'm good. Like I think like Conrad answered what I was trying to understand. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, at some point I was wondering, like if we can have this sort of like interviews or something on a separate Muse community YouTube channel or something, or in some way,
Yeah.
so that people know how others are using Muse. Yeah, I mean, we might need to like see the interest in the community as well, but it would be interesting.
Yeah, I would love that. I think today is kind of the first experiment in that realm. And Conrad, thank you for being the Muse community guinea pig today, and so generously offering to share how you use Muse and what your workflow is and how everything happens and how you research. I think it's fascinating, and I would love to kind of continue these kinds of conversations in the future too.
Just the last thing that I would like to show you, though, is
Yeah.
the ability. This is a text written in French. Okay, I'm Canadian, so we're switching between French and English back and forth. But if I want to have this text in English, there it is. It's
Oh, we're still
translated.
seeing your iPad if you're on your Mac.
Oh my goodness. Let me simply stop sharing the iPad.
I'm glad you remembered this workflow, because I remember this from our first conversation, using translation within Muse to be able to jump back and forth. So I'm glad you're showing this.
Yeah, I'm trying to remove the iPad from my Zoom, but I don't see the share button. There it is. So let us say that I'm not sharing with I'll share my screen at this point, which will create a loop most likely, but we'll see. Okay, now I'm
There we go. Perfect.
in the Mac. So you have this, and if I Control A and just say translate this note, there we go. So you have it in English, and of course it has the convenience of reading it. So
I note that the perspectives presented by Tascam are the most interesting with regard to everything related to the transition and digital transformation. This is extremely up-to-date information.
see, you see where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll stop sharing my screen, and I'll give you back the control of so sharing. Stop sharing. Wait a second.
Let me see if I might be able to.
So it's that red button at the bottom, Conrad, that you see.
Oh, there it is,
Okay,
the red one.
stop share. There we go. We're
Yeah.
back to normal.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Conrad. I think today's been fascinating. I think it's wonderful to be able to share your workflow.
It would
When
be
we talked at
interesting
first,
to do that collaboratively. I never work these things out in a collaborative fashion, but it would be interesting to have a team using a collective brain. So that different individuals will pick up information from different parts of the web on a given subject and bring it back into Muse, and connecting those ideas would be interesting to do that collaboratively. So if you have an
It would
interest
be.
in trying that, I'm willing to contribute.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting. And I love the idea too. Yash, you mentioned how you use Muse would be a great YouTube series. I agree. I think that'd be fun. Yeah. Maybe either of you, Ramit or Yash, can be the number two on the list next in line. I'd love that. Well,
I
thank
don't
you.
think mine would
Any other?
be. Sorry,
What's that, Yash?
I was saying I don't think my workflows would be as visually interesting as Conrad's. because mine's again compared to Conrad's, it's pretty thin. There's
Mhm.
not a lot of stuff I deal with in Muse.
Mhm.
But yeah, maybe Ramit has stuff much more visually interesting.
And consider the chromeless nature of Zone, because other applications can use whiteboarding and stuff like that, but there's a lot of Chrome. And
Mhm.
Muse is fantastic in that respect. It's responsive, fast, intuitive. Um,
Yep, and distraction free.
sure.
That is kind of the
Yeah.
core value of Muse, of just being able to let you be in your thoughts and follow those thoughts and not uh, pressure you one way or the other in how you use it. So yeah, thank you again, Conrad, for today, and thank you, Yash and Ramith, for joining us and
It's been a
participating.
pleasure.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. My goal is to post this on YouTube, if that's all right,
Yeah.
Conrad, and
Sure,
then
sure.
share that with the community as well. I think that'd be fun. And if folks are interested, I'd love to continue the series and have more of these kinds of events and kind of collaborations and how different people use Muse and sharing different workflows uh, and then providing that kind of long term on YouTube for people to follow up with. So hopefully that continues. I would love it too.
Great.
But we will
Okay.
leave it here and let you all enjoy your weekends.
Thank you very much, Adam, for the opportunity, and Tash, and well, it's been a pleasure to meet you, guys, and hopefully we'll have a chance to Ramesh as well to perhaps, who knows, collaborate with Muse. That would be
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. Okay,
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone.
bye,
I
guys.
will see
Thank
you
you.
on Discord. Bye.
Bye.